over this water bucket! Release! You can create.
So I built all this?
Yeah, most of it.
Hold up.
A place with no joy or creativity at all.
You! What are you making?
If they get their way, this beautiful world and everything in it will wither and die. If we want to save this world, creativity is key to survival. Now what? You like it?
Let's do this.
They want me to fight the chicken?
Chicken jockey!
The story kicks off with a young boy named Steve who dreams of becoming a miner. But every time he tries to enter the local mine, a grumpy old man stops him. Kids are strictly forbidden from going in there. Fast forward several decades, Steve has grown up, but life hasn't turned out the way he hoped. Instead of mining, he's selling door handles. One day, while eating alone, Steve suddenly remembers his childhood dream of becoming a miner. With renewed determination, he heads back to that same mine. This time, nothing can stop him, not even the grumpy old man. Steve breaks in and starts digging with fervor, chasing his long-lost dream. During his excavation, he discovers two mysterious artifacts, the Sphere of Dominion and the Earth Crystal. When he combines them, a portal opens to the overworld. Steve immediately starts constructing houses. One day, he encounters a pink sheep and uses its wool to build yet another home. On his adventures, he meets a wild wolf that initially tries to attack him, but Steve offers it a juicy bone, taming the creature. He names his new friend Dennis, and from that moment on, they become inseparable. Time flies and years pass. One day, while exploring the far reaches of the overworld, Steve stumbles upon an abandoned portal. Nearby, he finds a chest containing a missing block. He inserts it into the portal, which activates. On the other side, Steve finds himself in a completely different world, inhabited by pig-like creatures called piglins. They serve a powerful sorceress named Malosha, who has spent her life searching for the Sphere of Dominion that Steve possesses. She plans to use the sphere to take control of the overworld. Steve, who considers the overworld his home, can't allow this. With Dennis's help, he escapes and steals the sphere back. He then instructs the wolf to hide the artifact in his house in the real world. Dennis obeys, runs out of the portal, and Steve remains captive with Malosha. Dennis reaches the real world and hides the most powerful artifact in the universe under Steve's bed. Years have passed, and we meet Garrett Garrison, a former arcade champion from the late 80s, now living in the small town of Chuglas, Idaho. Back in his glory days, Garrett earned the nickname the Garbage Man for his impressive trash-throwing skills in video games. But those days are long gone. Now he's barely scraping by, running a struggling video game store that's seen better times. One day, Garrett receives an eviction notice due to unpaid rent. Desperate and out of options, he decides to try his luck at a local storage auction, hoping to find something valuable to sell. A friend hints that among the piles of junk, there might be a rare Atari Cosmos console worth a significant amount. Seizing the opportunity, Garrett purchases the contents of an old storage unit for $900, promising to pay his friend back within 6 months. Upon opening the boxes, Garrett is disappointed to find no sign of the coveted console. Frustrated, he fails to notice two powerful artifacts lying at his feet, the Orb of Dominance and the Earth Crystal. Around the same time, siblings Natalie and her younger brother Henry move to Chuglas, trying to cope with the recent loss of their mother. Natalie takes on a modest job to cover their basic needs, while their neighbor, Don, a real estate agent with dreams of a petting zoo, helps them settle into their new home. The next morning, Natalie prepares a pizza for Henry to share with his new classmates, hoping it will help him make friends. She also gives him a small bottle of cologne to ensure he smells nice. Still grieving, Henry thanks his sister and heads off to his first day at a new school. On his way, Henry spots an old game store and decides to check it out. It's Garrett's shop. Seeking advice, Henry approaches Garrett, who demands $50 for his insights. Instead, Henry offers the pizza his sister made. Garrett accepts the trade and shares some life wisdom. Having even one friend can make all the difference. Inspired by Garrett's words, Henry leaves the pizza and continues to school. There, he meets the principal, who gives him a name badge. During their conversation, she unexpectedly opens up about her own life, sharing that she and her husband had grown apart over time but stayed together for the sake of their dogs. Later that day, Henry's first class kicks off with a teacher who's clearly had enough. Grumbling about his life in Lope with a heavy dose of sarcasm, he assigns a still life drawing. But Henry, ever the innovator, sketches a prototype for a jetpack instead. His classmates erupt in laughter, mocking his unconventional approach. Determined to prove them wrong, Henry builds a homemade jetpack based on his design, showcasing his impressive ingenuity. However, during testing, the device malfunctions and crashes into the potato chip factory where his sister Natalie works. The incident doesn't go unnoticed, and Henry soon finds himself in the principal's office. She insists on contacting his guardian. Panicked, Henry calls Garrett and pleads with him to pose as his uncle to avoid troubling Natalie. Initially reluctant, Garrett changes his mind upon learning Henry has $26 in cash and promptly arrives at the school. Ever the narcissist, Garrett doesn't even step out of his car, expecting the principal to come to him. She attempts to flirt, but Garrett makes it clear he's not interested and drives off. Garrett takes Henry to his shop, where the boy notices the mysterious orb and crystal. Curious, he asks about them. Garrett shrugs, admitting he has no idea what they are, just some items he picked up at an auction. While rummaging through boxes, they discover an instruction manual for the cube. One warning stands out in bold letters. Under no circumstances should the orb and crystal cube be combined. And it's further emphasized. Never, even if you're broke, even if you think there's treasure inside, do not open. Naturally, their curiosity gets the better of them. They combine the cube and the orb, which transports them to an abandoned mine. Unbeknownst to them, Steve's loyal wolf, Dennis, watches from a distance. Meanwhile, Natalie realizes Henry hasn't returned home from school. Worried and unsure of what to do, she calls Dawn. Using a tracking app, Dawn locates Henry's phone at the abandoned mine. Inside the mine, Henry and Garrett discover a portal to the overworld. At that moment, Natalie and Dawn catch up to them. The mysterious cube begins to glow, emitting a strange energy that pulls Henry toward the portal. Instinctively, the others grab him, trying to hold him back. But within seconds, all four are sucked into the portal. They find themselves in the overworld, stunned by their new surroundings. Garrett spots a pink sheep and decides to chat with it, asking where to find gold. Meanwhile, a villager notices the open portal and steps into our world. Back in the desolate Nether, piglins continue their relentless search for gold. Suddenly, a portal activates. Malosha realizes the sphere has returned to the overworld. She rushes to Steve, who has been her captive all this time. Malosha frees him, promising to return Dennis, whom she claims to be holding, if Steve helps retrieve the lost artifact. In the overworld, the group of newcomers try to find their way home, but night falls quickly. A wolf howls loudly, prompting the pink sheep to hide. The area falls into an eerie silence, but not for long. Sinister sounds emerge from the shadows. Skeleton hunters, giant spiders, and zombies crawl out of the darkness. Our heroes panic and run. In the chaos, Garrett gets separated from the group. Henry, thinking on his feet, grabs nearby cubes and rapidly constructs defensive barricades. Meanwhile, Garrett hides underground, evading the skeleton hunters. After a few minutes, he emerges from his hiding spot, only to be startled by a creeper that explodes right next to him, leaving him in shock. He then sees the pink sheep being captured by zombies, but is powerless to help. One of the skeleton hunters shoots an arrow that shatters the earth crystal into pieces. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Steve arrives to save the day. He bravely confronts the monsters, single-handedly defeating them. As dawn breaks, the sun rises and the zombies burst into flame. Later, Steve reveals he came for the sphere. He offers a deal. He'll help them return to Earth if they give him the artifact. Since the skeleton hunter destroyed the earth crystal, the heroes realize they can't get back without Steve's help and agree to his terms. Meanwhile, back in the real world, the villager who stumbled through the portal found himself in quite an unexpected situation. He was accidentally hit by a car driven by none other than Vice Principal Marlene, who had been momentarily distracted at the wheel. In a flustered attempt to smooth things over, she quickly invited him to dinner, hoping to make amends. Back in the overworld, Steve took it upon himself to teach the newcomers about the ins and outs of Minecraft life. He brought them to a quiet village, home to friendly and curious locals. There, he explained that the only way back home was to find a new earth crystal to replace the one that had shattered. Legend had it that such a crystal was hidden inside the mysterious woodland mansion far to the north. During their journey, the group encountered a pig wearing a crown, known for his Pig King avatar. They also met a towering iron golem, the village's mighty protector. As lunchtime approached, Steve warned everyone that the chicken had been cooked over lava and was still burning hot. Garrett, ever the showman, took a huge bite anyway and tried to hide his discomfort just to look brave. Meanwhile, in the Nether, Malosha was growing frustrated. She suspected that Steve had tricked her. Determined to get the sphere back, she summoned her strongest general, Chungus, a powerful but kind-hearted piglin. She explained that 4 outsiders had taken the sphere and it needed to be recovered. Before sending him off, Mulgosa gave Chungus a special netherwort potion to keep him from turning into zombified bacon in the overworld. She ordered him to retrieve the sphere at all costs. Back in the overworld, Steve urged the group to embrace all the endless possibilities around them. He opened his inventory, filled with tools, gadgets, and strange items, and showed how to combine materials to craft new objects. Inspired, Garrett put together a makeshift weapon, rough but usable. Henry, using his real-world smarts, mixed everyday items with Minecraft resources to create something truly impressive. Later, Garrett pulled Steve aside for a private talk. He admitted he found a note inside the sphere and asked Steve directly about the gold. Steve didn't hesitate. He revealed that his diamond stash was deep in the mines, but warned that the journey was very dangerous. Garrett didn't flinch. He looked Steve in the eye and said, "No diamonds, no sphere." Before they could begin their quest, the village was suddenly attacked. Under Mulgosa's command, a squad of fierce piglins led by General Chungus stormed the area, searching for the sphere. Steve prepared to face Chungus, but Garrett, craving glory and unwilling to let Steve take the spotlight, charged at him with his crude weapon. In the chaos, Garrett accidentally knocked Steve out. Villagers panicked and fled in all directions. Steve regained consciousness and escaped with Garrett and Henry, but Natalie and Dawn were left behind, splitting up the group. Steve, Henry, and Garrett ended up trapped on top of a building. Steve pulled out his elytra wings, only 2 pairs. Henry jumped first and soared into the sky, followed by Garrett. Steve leapt and grabbed onto Garrett, and together they glided away. But the piglins weren't done yet. They chased them through the air on a ghast. A wild aerial pursuit began. Eventually, the trio lost their pursuers and flew over a peaceful field where pandas roamed. Steve poured a bucket of water on the ground, and they landed safely back on Earth. The vice principal was having dinner with the same villager she had hid with her car. During the meal, she opened up, revealing she had recently gone through a divorce. The villager listened with care and sympathy. In the overworld, Steve chose to confide in the group. He told them about Malosha, explaining that as a young girl, she dreamed of being a dancer. She had talent, but in the Nether, her creativity wasn't appreciated. Even her father turned his back on her, thinking she had brought shame to their family. Since then, Malosha had abandoned all kindness and imagination. Steve warned that if she got her hands on the sphere, she would destroy the overworld and everyone in it. He also admitted he was torn. He wanted to save his beloved wolf, Dennis, but he didn't want to let the overworld fall either. Meanwhile, in the Nether, Chungus had failed his mission, and Malgosa had lost patience. She unleashed her ultimate weapon, a giant boar, and ordered it to eliminate Chungus. The beast obeyed. Then, Malgosa gave a chilling command: retrieve the sphere at any costs. Elsewhere on their journey, Natalie and Dawn stumbled upon a wolf. Without a second thought, Dawn offered it a bone, hoping to earn its trust. When they noticed a collar with Steve's name, the wolf led them straight to him. Natalie and Dawn followed closely behind, hoping to reunite with their group. Meanwhile, Steve and his companions ventured deep into the mines, where he had hidden his precious diamonds. But Steve's minor instincts picked up something strange: the unmistakable smell of netherwort. Realizing they were in danger, Steve, Henry, and Garrett jumped into a minecart and sped down the tracks, racing through the tunnels at full speed, causing the minecart to halt right in the midst of a group of creepers. At that moment, the Great Boar appears. Determined to act, Steve triggers all the creepers simultaneously. A massive explosion shakes the mine, burying the Great Boar under rubble and allowing the trio to escape to the surface. Garrett, exhausted and frustrated, confronts Steve, accusing him of greed. In response, Garrett admits that diamonds are his only chance to escape poverty. After a brief exchange, they reconcile. The three friends finally reach the ominous forest mansion. According to Steve, the mansion has 3 floors. The first is guarded by battle-hardened villagers, tough and disciplined. The second is controlled by evokers, dark wizards capable of bringing nightmares to life. And on the 3rd floor resides the Enderman Crystal, protected by the Enderman itself. Steve and Garrett decide to distract the Guardians, while Henry is tasked with building a ladder to steal the Enderman Crystal. The Guardians push Garrett into an arena where he must face their best warrior. Initially confident, Garrett soon realizes his opponent is a mini-zombie riding a frenzy chicken. These tiny fighters battle like true professionals. While the Guardians are distracted by the fight, Henry stealthily ascends to the 3rd floor and finds the coveted Enderman Crystal. However, the Enderman appears, a tall, dark figure. Armed with a diamond axe, Henry engages in battle and defeats the Enderman. As a trophy, he obtains the Enderman Pearl, a rare artifact capable of instantly transporting its holder anywhere in the overworld. The trio flees the mansion, but encounters Malgosa. Smirking, she seizes the Orb of Dominance and the Enderman Crystal from them, leaving them empty-handed. Garrett saves Steve and Henry's lives, giving them a chance to escape unaghast. Displaying selflessness, he remains on the bridge and sacrifices himself during its destruction. Later, Steve is reunited with his loyal wolf, Dennis. In the distance, Henry is spotted. He survived too. It turns out that Dawn has built a cozy home inside a giant mushroom. The reunited team takes a moment to rest, but their joy is short-lived as a new disaster unfolds. Malgosa uses the spear's power to strengthen the portal from the netherworld to the overworld. At her command, the sun vanishes, plunging the overworld into eternal night. The friends decide to confront Malgosa and save the overworld. They devise a plan, craft numerous swords, forge sturdy armor, and even build an entire army of iron golems. At dawn, a horde of piglins flood into the overworld through the enhanced portal. Upon seeing the golem army, Malgosa laughs, knowing that golems don't fight unless provoked. One reckless piglin strikes first, and that's enough. Golems spring into action, and the decisive battle begins. During the fight, Malgosa orders another great boar to join the fray. two monsters clash in a thunderous duel that shakes the entire overworld. Meanwhile, Steve, clad in diamond armor and wielding a diamond sword, faces off against Malgosha. But she stands firm. Her dark magic proves stronger than any sword. At this moment, the Great Board defeats the Ultra Golem. In the heat of battle, Henry takes a desperate step. He uses the crafted item and the Ender Pearl to instantly teleport to the top of the portal to seize the sphere. Suddenly, a voice rings out. It's Dawn. She stands atop a hill surrounded by a pack of wild wolves she somehow tamed and united. One sharp whistle and the wolves leap into action. Amid the chaos, the Great Boar, consumed by rage, fires a beam directly at Henry, knocking him from his perch before he can grab the artifact. It seems Henry is doomed, but at the last moment, Garrett, miraculously alive, saves him. Turns out he used a bucket of water when landing after the bridge's collapse. With the help of a ghast, Garrett destroys the portal to the Netherworld. The sun returns, zombies and skeletons vanish under its light, and the piglins, including Malgosha, lose their magical protection and begin to turn into zombie bacon. Malgosha attempts to deceive Steve, charging at him with a knife 3 times, but fails each time. Steve knows the battle is over. Instead of finishing off the enemy, he walks away, leaving Malgosha alive to live with the shame of her defeat. After their victory, Steve expresses his gratitude to Dawn for looking after Dennis and entrusts her with his beloved pet. He then embraces Garrett, acknowledging him as a true friend and a brave warrior. Steve invites Henry to remain in the overworld, but Henry smiles and declines, preferring to return home. Soon after, the team uses the Orb of Dominance and the Ender Crystal to open a portal back to their world. Steve watches as each of them steps through the portal, and a moment later, he follows suit. Days pass, and life begins to change. Garrett creates a fighting game based on their adventures in the overworld, achieving financial success and settling his debts. Dawn leaves her real estate job to open a petting zoo, with Dennis becoming the main attraction. Henry completes his jetpack, and Natalie starts teaching self-defense classes. Steve joins Garrett in managing his game store, becoming a full business partner. In a post-credit scene, a romance blossoms between a villager and the school principal. The villager now speaks fluent English, and she has learned a bit of villager.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting story. More thrilling recaps are on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment from this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Movie Recap Time Team.
Subscribe to Movie Recap Chime channel now.